Drop 1 clove into warm milk tonight. What happens inside your body 10 minutes later? That question sounds simple, but scientifically, it is actually the wrong question. Because your body does not recognize an internet recipe called clove milk. It recognizes individual chemicals, nutrients, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and aromatic compounds. Some begin moving through your digestive system. Some are absorbed later. Some are transformed by the liver. And many never reach your bloodstream in the same form in which you swallowed them. That distinction changes almost everything you may have heard about cloves. 1 clove does contain biologically active compounds. The best known is eugenol. And eugenol is not imaginary medicine. It has been studied for decades. Dentists have even used eugenol-containing materials because of their local effects around teeth. But that does not mean 1 clove floating in milk becomes a whole-body treatment. And there is no good human evidence showing that this drink suddenly lowers blood sugar, clears arteries, switches off inflammation, repairs the liver, or transforms sleep within 10 minutes. The more interesting story is what your body actually does with eugenol after you swallow it. Researchers have studied that in humans, and what they discovered helps explain why the viral 10-minute promise is so misleading. Because the moment eugenol enters your body, your metabolism begins changing it. So tonight we are not going to ask whether clove milk is a miracle. Instead, we are going to ask a much better question. What happens to the clove compound after you swallow it? What evidence involving older adults actually exists for milk and sleep? And, why can the same chemical that has legitimate dental uses become harmful when people concentrate it too aggressively? That is where this story becomes genuinely useful. Here is a fact about cloves that rarely appears in bedtime remedy videos. Scientists have actually tracked eugenol after people swallowed it. In a human metabolism study, researchers gave eugenol to healthy men and women, and then analyzed what appeared in their urine. The compound was rapidly absorbed and extensively metabolized. Very little came out unchanged. Instead, the body converted it into multiple metabolites and conjugated compounds. Researchers recovered roughly 95% of the administered dose in urine within 24 hours. And less than 0.1% was unchanged eugenol. Think about what that means. When you swallow a plant chemical, your body does not simply allow that chemical to circulate untouched and visit whatever organ a thumbnail happens to show. So, your intestine and liver start processing it. Enzymes modify it, and the body attaches chemical groups that help make compounds easier to handle and eliminate. In the eugenol study, glucuronide and sulfate conjugates actually accounted for a large portion of what researchers found. This is just ordinary human metabolism. And, it matters because laboratory studies sometimes expose isolated cells directly to eugenol at a particular concentration. Your liver cell in a living human being does not necessarily experience that same exposure after you eat a clove. That's actually one reason laboratory findings cannot automatically become kitchen instructions. A substance may kill bacteria in a dish. It may change an inflammatory pathway in cultured cells. It may even alter an enzyme in an animal experiment. But after you swallow it, absorption, metabolism, concentration, and elimination all influence what actually reaches human tissues. This gives us a much better way to understand the 10-minute claim. Could some eugenol begin being absorbed relatively quickly? Yes. But that does not mean you experience a clinically meaningful health benefit at 10 minutes. Absorption is not the same thing as treatment. Metabolism is not the same thing as healing. And detecting a chemical in the body is not proof that a disease process has changed. There is another fascinating part of this. The body appears to be quite efficient at transforming and eliminating eugenol. That should immediately challenge the idea that simply adding more cloves creates unlimited benefit. More exposure also means more chemical material that your body has to process. With normal culinary amounts, that is very different from swallowing concentrated essential oil. And this leads to the most important concept in the entire video. The form matters. 1 whole clove is one form. Ground clove powder is another. A standardized extract is another. And concentrated clove oil is another again. They may come from the same plant. They are not interchangeable doses. Now we can look at one of the more interesting human clove studies. Researchers studied a standardized water-soluble clove extract in a small group of healthy and pre-diabetic volunteers. 13 people completed the study. They consumed 250 milligrams of the standardized extract each day. Not for 10 minutes, not for one evening, for 30 days. Researchers reported reductions in pre-meal and post-meal glucose measurements during the study. That makes clove research interesting. But it does not prove what many videos claim. First, 13 participants is a very small study. Second, it was an open-label pilot investigation. That means it was designed more like an early exploration than the kind of large, blinded clinical trial we would want before making treatment recommendations. Third, researchers used a standardized extract. They did not put one whole clove into warm milk. That distinction is critical. Imagine testing a precisely measured coffee extract in a clinical trial, and then saying the results prove that one coffee bean dropped into water produces the same effect. The source plant may be related. The exposure is not necessarily equivalent. This is what I call the formulation gap. It is one of the easiest ways nutrition research becomes distorted online. A study investigates an extract. A headline changes extract into clove. Then a video changes clove into one clove before bed. And finally, someone adds, works in 10 minutes. By the time the claim reaches your kitchen, almost every important detail of the original experiment has disappeared. That does not mean the original study was bad. It means we need to describe what it actually tested. And if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, this distinction is especially important. You should not use cloves as a substitute for medication, glucose monitoring, nutrition changes, physical activity, or professional care. A small pilot trial can generate a hypothesis. It cannot establish that your diabetes treatment should change. There is also a practical lesson here. If a creator tells you that a food was proven by a study, ask 4 questions. What exact form did researchers use? How much did they use? How long did participants take it? And what outcome did they actually measure? Concentration changes the story. Reviews of Eugenol-containing dental materials describe beneficial local effects at lower concentrations. But high concentrations can damage cells and tissue. So once again, more does not automatically mean better. This is particularly important with clove essential oil. Essential oil is not just a stronger tasting clove, it is a concentrated chemical mixture. High-dose eugenol exposure has been associated with serious toxicity, including liver injury. That is why pouring essential clove oil into bedtime milk is very different from infusing one whole culinary clove. Do not convert a food recipe into an essential oil experiment. And do not increase the amount because you did not feel something after 10 minutes. The absence of a sensation does not mean the dose needs to be stronger. For most healthy people who tolerate the ingredients, one whole clove used for flavor is a culinary exposure. Once you start using concentrated oils, extracts, capsules, or large quantities of powder for a medical goal, the safety discussion changes. Medication use matters too. If you take medicines for diabetes, medicines that affect bleeding or clotting, or several prescription drugs, regularly using concentrated herbal products deserves a conversation with your pharmacist or clinician. The same applies before surgery. And anyone with liver disease, significant chronic illness, pregnancy, or a history of reactions to herbs should be especially cautious about concentrated products. There is no prize for taking the strongest version. Sometimes the safest version of a traditional ingredient is the version that stays in the kitchen. So should you drop one clove into warm milk tonight? If you tolerate milk and cloves, you can, but treat it as a food experiment, not a medical treatment. Warm a modest serving of milk until it is comfortable to drink. You do not need to boil it aggressively. Add one whole clove. Allow the flavor to infuse for several minutes. Then remove the clove if you prefer. Do not add essential clove oil. Do not keep increasing the number of cloves every night. And do not expect an invisible organ transformation 10 minutes later. Instead, run a more useful experiment. Pay attention to what you can actually observe. Does the drink feel comfortable in your stomach? Do you enjoy the flavor? Does having the same calm routine each evening make it easier to wind down? Does drinking it too late make you wake up to urinate? Does milk cause bloating because you do not tolerate lactose well? Do you experience reflux when you drink or eat immediately before lying down? These observations are specific to you, and honestly, they are far more useful than trying to guess whether your inflammation level changed just because your body felt warm. If sleep is the real problem, it's better to track sleep rather than the spice. Notice approximately when you go to bed, how long you think it takes to fall asleep, how frequently you wake, and how you feel during the day. And whether changing caffeine, alcohol, screen use, exercise, or nighttime fluid intake makes a bigger difference. Persistent sleep problems deserve more than a kitchen hack. Loud habitual snoring, choking or gasping during sleep, marked daytime sleepiness, persistent insomnia, or repeated nighttime waking may justify discussing sleep with a healthcare professional. There may be an underlying reason that, no spice can fix. And that brings us back to our original 10-minute question. After you drink clove milk, digestion begins. The body starts processing nutrients and plant compounds. Eugenol does not remain chemically untouched. It is absorbed, transformed, conjugated, and eventually eliminated. That is genuine biology. But there is no established human evidence showing that one clove in warm milk creates a measurable therapeutic transformation exactly 10 minutes later. The human clove study we discussed used a standardized extract for 30 days. The older adult dairy study we discussed used a specific fermented milk for 3 weeks. And the legitimate medical history of eugenol largely illustrates something completely different. A compound can have a real effect in a specific formulation and location without becoming a universal remedy when swallowed. That may sound less dramatic than one clove changes everything, but honestly, it gives you something much more valuable, a framework you can use whenever you see the next viral remedy. Ask yourself, what exact product did the study test? What dose did they use? For how long? In what kind of people? And did researchers measure a real human health outcome? Or are you just being shown some laboratory biology? Those questions, they really protect you from both extremes. You do not have to dismiss every traditional food as nonsense, and you do not have to believe every impressive biological claim made about it either. Clove is a fascinating spice. Eugenol is a genuinely interesting compound. Milk is a nutritious food for people who tolerate it. And, honestly, a warm evening drink can be a perfectly enjoyable routine. None of those facts requires a miracle story. Use one clove because you like the drink, not because you were promised that your body would be transformed before the cup cools down. And please, never stop or change prescribed treatment because of a food, spice, herbal drink, or supplement without discussing it with the healthcare professional responsible for your care. Now, I would like to know something more useful than whether you believe the viral claim. If you already drink something warm before bed, what seems to help you most? The drink itself, or the routine around it? Go ahead and share your experience below. And of course, subscribe to Health Quest for practical, evidence-based health guidance that separates interesting research from claims the research never actually proved.